So if you are tuning in from any part of the world, you're tuning in, welcome and thank you for joining us. This is International Youth Day celebration. And this event is brought to you by Coaches of Influence Foundation, which is a women's and youth organization headquartered in the United States, in partnership with Global Youth Leadership Network, which is a youth organization headquartered in South Africa. Tell you what, I'm glad you tuned in because we do have a power pack program for you today. The conversation will be centered around youth engagement and sustainable impact. And you will soon understand why we chose such a topic. I did share a little bit earlier on about the origination of Youth Day celebration, International Youth Day. It all started with the United Nations. And this year, the UN is celebrating 75 years since its establishment in 1945. And part of the reason the UN exists, part of the reason it was established, was to prevent the repeat of the destruction that the world suffered from World War II by ensuring that peace and prosperity are promoted as major agendas for all nations of the world. And you and I know that you will agree with me that there cannot be any peace or development or prosperity in any nation if the basic needs of humanity are not met. As a result, the UN body came up with 17 goals, and they are known as the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And these SDGs are intended to serve as the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all humanity. And these SDGs, since they were introduced, they are expected to be achieved in this decade that we are in by 2030. They are expected to be accomplished and achieved, and they are intended to address the global challenges that we face in our world, such as poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, justice, etc., that human beings face in our world. Alongside the SDGs, which are 17, there is also a prominent agenda which is focused on proffering a solution for unemployment, lack of proper education, and training for youth by 2030. This is why we chose the topic that we chose today. This is why the event today is dedicated to celebrating youth all over the world. Our topic today for this event is positioning the youth for sustainable impact. Positioning the youth for sustainable impact. And this topic is inspired by Sustainable Development Goal 8, SDG 8, which simply focuses on creating employment opportunities for young people through the acquisition of good education and good training. With that, I would like to welcome our first speaker for the day. Our first speaker today is Waqar Ali. And Waqar Ali is representing the voices from the nation of Pakistan. Waqar, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. I hope that you all are well.
Thank you for having you, Waqar. Let me just introduce you to our viewers. Let me share your very powerful biography with them. Waqar, besides being a trainer and consultant at the School of Leadership and Talk, you are also a program manager for Pakistan's largest youth conference, which has presence in over 100 districts in Pakistan. And in this role, Waqar, you have personally impacted more than 900 youth from 50 cities who have in turn influenced a large number of people in the tune of 20,000 in their respective spheres of influence. So you train them, you release them, and they go out and duplicate the influence. And part of your responsibility, Waqar, is to organize several youth development events in partnership with other NGOs in the country. Waqar, I would like to be when I grow up. I would like to be like you when I grow up. Welcome to the platform.
Thank you very much. Sounds like you just hit your age by saying that when you will grow up.
Yes, I am still growing up.
Great to have you. Thank you.
Yes. Waka, let's begin the dialogue. I am very interested in the work that you're doing in Pakistan, and I know
Sure.
that our viewers are too. So Waka, how would you define formal education in Pakistan? The SDG 8 talks about education, training, and employment for young people. So,
Mhm.
how would you define formal education in Pakistan? In other words, what I'm asking is, how are you pursuing formal education in our context today?
Thank you very much. First of all, happy International Youth Day to all the people who are watching from across the world. I'm so happy to see you all. Very interesting question regarding formal education. I have a very different, not a different, but a very unconventional point of view with regards to formal education. When it comes to our particular country, I don't know about the rest of the countries, about the rest of the world. I'm not sure if you'll be able to relate with that or not. But when it comes to Pakistan, I personally believe, and as an entity, we believe that this particular education system that we are following right now as a formal education system in our country is adapted, not our own, and is outdated. When we say outdated, we mean curriculum. When we say adapted, we say, and when we say it's not our own, it means that we've taken it from somewhere. Let me define this formal education system for you that we are currently following. It speaks about putting humans into a lot of action, making their hands work and heads stop, which means that this particular education system that has been followed by many, many countries across the world was introduced in the world because people were not required to think. They were required to be there on the assembly lines. They were required to be there on the war fields. They were required to be there out in the manufacturing companies, out there on the assemblies, producing a lot of things, but not thinking from their head on why these particular things are happening or why they are doing what they're doing.
Mm,
Creativity was not at all a question 80 years back, 100 years back. That's why if you study Lynchman, you will get to know that this particular education system was introduced so that humans by default have a thinking capability. They think, they question, they explore, they resonate, they look for reasons, they look for justifications. These were all the parameters that were an enemy for organizations to produce slavery, for companies to produce slavery, or to make people work on the assembly line from morning to evening. This is how this particular education system is defined by myself in my country, because it puts the kids in the schools to stop thinking, not ask a lot of questions, do as you are asked to do, just read through the books, give exams, get the grades, get the positioning. We have been conditioned to fight for grades. We've been conditioned to fight for CGPAs and GPAs. We've been conditioned to look for a job, and we've been conditioned to just earn money and nothing else. I don't personally believe that human beings are this weak. Human beings are very, very powerful. And this particular formal education system that we're speaking of right now is all about downsizing the power of human beings and not letting them be for who they are. This is about controlling a lion in a cage. We've been caged by such an education system which doesn't allow us to ask, which doesn't allow us to position ourselves into market, which doesn't allow us to get mentoring, which doesn't allow us to explore, to test and try and fail. You look into the history, the greatest scientists, the greatest inventions, the greatest discoveries of the world you would look at are by the people who have not been bound by education systems, are by those people who have been very, very vocal, very, very open in
mhm,
terms of testing for what they're thinking of.
mm,
It's not like that Edison invented the bulb in the first attempt. So it was a lot of testing and trying and failing. You give a lot of examples to the students of the Bill Gates, of Steve Jobs, and of who not, of Nelson Mandela, and of who not. But you don't try and learn on how much they have tested and tried and failed in their lives before they've gotten towards the success part.
mhm,
That is missing. Experience is missing from our formal education system. Emotions are missing. Soft skills are missing. Exploration is missing. All that we are getting to know right now is just read, just write, and just get the grades and just go out. From school to college to university to our institutions. Let me give you this interesting. idea before, and just give me a heads up when I'm speaking a lot. Uh, um, uh, uh, Let me give you this idea, interesting idea to all of you. When you go to school, the school doesn't pay you. You pay to the school. Okay. When you go to the college doesn't pay you. You pay to the college. You pay the fee. When you go to a university, the university management doesn't pay you. You pay the amount, the fee to the university. But when
Right.
you go to organization for job after university, the organization pays you.
Mm.
That is why you would see corporates and organizations and companies more inclined towards the development of human beings
Hmm.
instead of our schools and colleges and universities being inclined. Because on, at those three categories, the individual was investing. Right
Mm.
now, organization or the entity is paying you, so they can't afford to have the problems that you have brought up with yourself in school, college, and university. So they want them to be resolved, and they're going to offer you a lot of training programs.
Yeah.
That is what our formal education system is missing. They've been giving a lot of knowledge, but they're not making us wise. That's how I define it.
Wow, Waka, what a powerful response. And I think that what you are sharing resonates with a lot of us. I
Hmm.
am originally from Africa, and specifically the Gambia. And what you describe, it suits our scenario. The curriculum, when you said the curriculum is outdated, it is adopted. That speaks to many countries that are represented even on this platform today. And when this happens, like you stated, we deny people the ability to challenge them to think critically. And if we must make impact, which this conference is about, SDG Development Aid, the United Nations have a goal, and their goal is impact. Their goal is to equip young people through education and training to become employable so they can be relevant contributors of society. If that must happen, Waka, we must begin with the education system. We must begin with the institution where minds are formed. We must begin in this place to challenge people to think. We cannot craft solutions if we cannot think. And you know what? In summary, what I can say is that the great minds of our young people are captured, are locked in the classroom, and they are being taught outdated philosophies when we could have released them into the communities, empower them, and they could build faster. So thank you so much, Walker. That was very clear. We heard your message. Thank you. So Walker, in general, Waka, you are a trainer. You are in the training professional. You are a training professional, and in general, when you mention training, training is viewed in technical terms. The minute you mention training, people usually envision machines. They envision equipment. They envision computers when training is mentioned. That is because we fail to consider that training also involves addressing emotional needs and human development. So we fail to consider that. Training is not all about hands on. Training is also to address emotional needs, and it helps us to address human development. So, Waka, what are you doing in Pakistan in terms of training to mold rounded youths?
Let me thank you very much. Wonderful question for and a very relevant one for all of us who are watching this right now. See, there is a term called training, and then there is a term called learning. My
Right.
mentor in the country, Shirin Nakwi, she's a fantastic trainer. She taught us this, that you do training of animals. Humans don't get trained, humans learn. That is why we converted this terminology of training need analysis to learning need analysis. Because you don't do the training need analysis of human beings, you do the learning need analysis of human beings. So of course both the terminologies are there, but just a concept to give you. In particularly, the biggest element, see, we are extremists in our thinking. We as humans, we are extremists in our thinking. In my previous answer that I've given you, I'm just going to connect that one with this one that you have just asked.
Mhm.
That we've been, okay, so if we want A, we would want to eliminate B. If we want B, we would want to eliminate C. The world doesn't work this way. Nature has its own principles. God has its own defined ways to rule things, to work over things. And that is about combining. That is about a combination. You can't eliminate or you can't completely demolish the conventional education system. you have to get into it and evolve over it with the methodologies, evolve over it with the kind of work that you do. So in particularly what we're doing in our country is we are redefining the way we used to get education. We're not speaking of demolishing the education system, because that can't be done. We are speaking of bringing people together, converting the teachers into facilitators, how teachers could become facilitators in their classrooms, how students could have the element of critical thinking in themselves, how students could become more powerful by developing their skill sets. Now, here comes the question: how different are we than the current system? There's a terminology called experiential learning. I'm sure that all of you have heard about the experiential learning methodology. That is what humans require right now. I sit in a classroom and I look at a book and I say, okay, this is how the northern areas of my country look like. Or I go to the northern areas of my country and see them by my eyes and then know, okay, that is how it looks. You can't teach cycling to the kids through a book. Kids never learn to cycle through a book. They went out, they picked up the bicycle, they ride the bicycle, they've been there, they've taken a lot of injuries, and that's how they have learned it. That is what is important. People need to get into experiential learning. People need to feel things. We are humans. We are not robots. Robots are not going to take over the world through artificial intelligence or anything at all. Let me tell you this: we humans are going to become so robotic that the world is going to call all of us the robots. They're not new robots being produced in labs. We are becoming robots because we are shutting this mind. And this is being shut because we are not putting ourselves into experiential learning. We are not going out and seeing things on our own. We're just being manipulated. There's a difference between perception and reality. We are trying to live in the world of perceptions. My lovely friends from anywhere in the world, I would like you all to please come out of the perceptions that you have. Please come out of the assumptions and the judgments that you have created by sitting at your homes. Come out and look at the reality. You need to operate in reality. It's beautiful to say that the world is digital, but it is not the reality of many countries. The world is not as digital as we look at it in our perception. Hardly 5% people in my country are able to go through social media, are able to go through these credit card payments, and are able to go through these digital online programs. The rest of them are sitting in the backward areas, in towns, in districts, in villages. They are in the rural areas. We have to get there. We have to get the talent out from there. That's what we're doing. We're working with the youth. We're working with the teachers. We're working with the corporate. We're working with the development sector only on two things. Number one, attitudinal shift. If there is no attitudinal shift, if you are a fixed mindset, if you're not a growth mindset, then there is no point of teaching you a skill, because your mind is shut. When the door is shut, your guests cannot come in. So in terms of attitudinal shift, we are opening the minds. We're turning them towards growth mindsets, so that when we teach them presentation skills, conflict management, emotional intelligence, empathy, other soft skills, their mind is able to take all of that. So that is what we're doing right now, number one. And number two, when the attitudinal shift part is done, we try to put people into a lot of experiential learning to make them learn the soft skills. That's how we're moving forward. That's what we're doing right now. It's been 19 years that my organization has been doing this. We've worked with more than 0.5 million people across the country, 100,000 every year. And it's fantastic how people respond to things, how lives transformed. I've seen fantastic stories coming into action. I personally believe that it's amazing when you work with people, when you turn their minds, when you train them, when you make them learn, when you put them into simulations, and that's how they change their lives. They shift, they turn around, and they say, this is what the world looks like. That's what we're doing. I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit more time on your questions, but
no, this is all good. It's so great. This is great information, Waqar. I am sure that I am not the only one that's being fed here. I'm sure that our viewers from all over the world are being fed. I am sure that the young people that are with us today, they have been trying to craft a way for the future. They have been thinking about how to move ahead. They have been thinking about what the challenges are. The dialogue we are having right now will help you to understand the issues that are in the system, because because you are walking towards this, you are walking towards the leadership seats. You are walking towards taking over. And these are the challenges you need to know. This should be in your manifesto. If you're going to run for president, if you're going to be in parliament in your nations, these are the issues that need to be in your manifesto. This is what you need to be addressing as leaders. And Waqar, I like what you stated. You said, and we are extremists in our thinking, and we don't recognize that nature has its system. My God, that is so powerful. And I like something you stated also about the attitudinal shift. You know, when we begin to incorporate this in our curriculum, when we begin to teach people, to train people to adjust and train and adopt the right attitude, we will prepare them for employment. This SDG focuses on SDG 8, Sustainable Development Goal 8. It focuses on youth education, youth training, and youth employment. And Waqar, I know you know this, but I would just like to share with you and everyone else. In human resources, we have a belief in human resources that you hire people for their attitude. You train them on the skills. They don't need to come to your company already with the skills you're looking for. But if they have the right attitude, then they will be employable. So let's train for attitude. Let's develop our youth for attitude so we can position them for employment. Thank you so much, Waqar. Let's move on to our next question. Waqar, the Sustainable Development Goal 8, which is the inspiration of our theme today, that Sustainable Development Goal focuses on education. It focuses on training, and it also focuses on employment for youth. Now, let's talk employment. When we talk about youth employment, the word employment is a two-edged sword. On one side, this addresses being employed. On the other side, it addresses a young person being an employer. So to be employed or to be an employer, which one, Waqar, is better for youth in your view?
Thank you, ma'am, for another interesting question. You see, both are important. Right. Humans, see, in order to give birth to a child, there's a male and then there's a female. Both are required. Imagine everyone across the world becoming an employer. Who's going to work with them? Who's going to work with the organizations? Who's going to be the employee? So you see, like I said, that this is the principle of the nature, that you require a human to be there in his best form, in her best form, in any given position. We have positioned employment in a very, very wrong direction. We've been telling people across the world through our content that being employed is slavery. I don't believe it. I don't think so, that being employed is slavery. It's good that you become an entrepreneur. It's good that you become an employer. It's good that you become a giver to the community. But at the same time, you need to know that there are always going to be people in your community, in your society, who are going to think to a level wherein they're not able to set up their own institutions, but they're able to take your organization to another level. See, when you make a cricket team, there are bowlers, and then there are batsmen, and then there are wicket keepers, and then there are good fielders, and then there's a coach. Everybody is required. Every single person is required. You can't have all the bowlers and win the match. You can't have all the batsmen and win the match. You just can't score. You also have to defend. You just can't defend. You also have to score. Similar is the case with this particular industry. Everybody, every institution, every organization who is working right now across the world with the youth, prepare them to become very, very good and agile employees of their organizations. Prepare them to come to a level wherein they become managers of those organizations, become leaders in their own positions, become succession of their bosses, lead organizations. It's not necessarily important to start your own organization to become an entrepreneur. I came in as a volunteer to my organization. My organization accepted me as a raw material, as a raw talent. I didn't know jack about anything at all. I couldn't speak English. I couldn't write English. I just couldn't do it. I was a no one. I was a blank slate. My organization, School of Leadership, accepted me. My mentors accepted me. And then they took me from there. And it's been 10 years. And in my 10th year of my career with the same institution, I became a chief executive officer and a director of the same organization. So I started my journey as an employee and I converted myself into an employer. So both the sides are important. This world operates on the principle of employers and employees coming together in a nicer way and working in the most fashionable way so that both the sides are secured. Both the sides have their own rights. Both the sides fulfill their own responsibilities. There are people who are paying. There are people who are working hard. There are people who are working hard and there are people who are getting a lot of money. All of them are important. So please don't become an extremist in your thinking. I'm saying this again. Don't just promote that you are not there to be an employee. You are there to be an employer. If all of them are there to be an employer, the problem is that when you only promote one side, the people who are talented, who are gifted to be employees of organization, they lose their potential. You need to tell them that find the right side for yourself. If you think that you're agile, if you think that you can take the hit, if you think that you're not vulnerable, if you think that you're emotionally intelligent, go do it. Write your own business. But if you're not, that's all right. Look for a job that serves your passion and grows your career as well. That's perfectly all right. There is no harm into that. There's no down looking to that. That's my concept of employer and employee.
Thank you so much, Waqar. Very profound. I like your analogy. To conceive and give birth to a child, you need both the male and the female. So to be a successful, rounded youth, you need an experience as an employee, and you can also own your own business and become an employer. But I think that training is key. And when we tell young people they don't need to be employed, they all need to be employers, or they all need to be self-employed, we are denying them a very key ingredient of growth. They need the experience, they need the training. You cannot lead if you have never been led. So thank you so much, Waqar. Waqar, our final question for you. We can stay here all day, but our final question for you, Waqar, thank you so much. This is profound. You and I know that there is a huge push for entrepreneurship programs and initiatives for youth, especially in third world countries. Most of the programs right now are geared towards entrepreneurship because we woke up one day and we are convinced that entrepreneurship is the only way that we can develop these continents. So literally, the young population have started to believe that they all need to pursue entrepreneurship because of the narrative that they are told. What is your take on this?
Entrepreneurship is as good as teaching engineering, as teaching medical, as telling people how to do something related to arts, as putting people into the commerce field. See, when you speak of entrepreneurship specifically, you've taken this as an agenda. There was a time and there was a trend in this world when engineering was taken in the similar way as an agenda. And we produced engineers across the world. Then we produced doctors and pharmaceuticals across the world. Then we produced businessmen across the world. And this is a time wherein we are focusing, there are a lot of people who are focusing on entrepreneurship, but the problem is that people who are teaching entrepreneurship, they're not diving into the depth of entrepreneurship. They're not, entrepreneurship is not just about sitting in an office, hiring 3 people and wasting the funds that you get, or giving a service that you just would want to give it just for the heck of it. That's not entrepreneurship. When you teach people entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. You don't work 9 to 5 when you become an entrepreneur. You work all day, all night. That's how you put in your nights and days and make things happen and build sustainable organizations. It is absolutely fantastic to teach entrepreneurship to people because people are talented, people are to be polished, and people have this thing hidden in themselves. Those who get it, that's perfectly all right. Those who don't get it, that's also all right. My problem is with the content of entrepreneurship. My problem is how we are getting to only a limited number of people across the world and giving them this scope of entrepreneurship. To me, to my sense, there are true entrepreneurs, true young entrepreneurs who are sitting in the backward areas, who are sitting in the less privileged areas, and they need to have the limelight. They need to be taken into consideration. Another problem with entrepreneurship, we believe that if you are not a techie, if you don't know how to run the tech things, if you are not doing a disruption, you cannot become an entrepreneur. Because of businesses like Uber, businesses like Kareem, businesses like Food Panda, Rocket International, these apps, Amazon, all of these tech-related businesses, disruption, we believe that this is the only thing that is happening in the world. I am really sorry. You have completely ignored the agricultural part. You have entirely ignored the service industry. You're just focusing on the tech side. See, tech is great, but when I speak from a third world country point of view, there are people who don't know tech, but there are people who could become great entrepreneurs. So I would like the concept of entrepreneurship, the content of entrepreneurship, the depth of entrepreneurship to go into the roots of the nations, rather than just staying on a couple of learning management softwares or the systems or the website or over the e-commerce thing. I think that is something, that is where we really need to work on, and get the content and get the mentoring and get the guidance to the people who might not have good internet, who might not have good lab. I am privileged right now, but I also pardoned before the session started. I said that we have bad weather here. We might have a power cut. I might disappear. Mariam had a performance. She couldn't perform because she had some disconnectivity. Look at us privileged people who have the tech with us. We are also in a glitch here.
Right.
Now, imagine the population who doesn't have this.
Right.
You are ignoring a whole lot of talent pool, a whole lot of population. Please, if you are an institution, if you are an organization, please go to the depth of it. Teach entrepreneurship. It's fantastic. We need it in today's world, but teach it to the people who are being ignored right now, and not just the people who could go and click on udemy.com and could anyways play a course on entrepreneurship.
Waqar, thank you so much. I something resonated with me. It's a takeaway for me. The content, the context, and the context of entrepreneurship training should go to the roots of the country. I think that is very powerful. And I think that's a takeaway. It's a nugget, not just for me, but for many people listening, especially those who are involved in training youth in entrepreneurship, especially those organizations that are dedicated in incubators and training young people and developing them for entrepreneurship. Also push education and push real training, not only hands-on training, not only training them to become an entrepreneur, but developing them emotionally, developing them mentally, and helping them to become rounded human beings. I think this is what the vision of UN is, and this is what the SDG number 8 hopes to address. Waqar Ali, thank you so much for your time today. I salute you, sir. I salute you for all the work that you're doing, and I urge you to continue to transform and influence the use of Pakistan and the entire world. And tell you what, Waqar, your influence is growing legs. It has started traveling to places you have not set foot in, because I'm sure today you have impacted a lot of people. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
I am sorry if I've taken more time than I was being allocated, but I don't know. I have 10 seconds last. Can I have 10 more seconds?
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you all that the best way to get to the roots, because we spoke of the roots. See, when there is rice being cooked in my house and I want chicken in the rice as well, I don't cook chicken separately. I mix the chicken in the rice. That's so right. When there is the concept and the context of entrepreneurship in your country, it is not necessary that you take it separately. It is fantastic when you involve it into the sources of communication that are masses. Formal education systems, your radio channels, your TV channels, your newspaper, make sure that you include all the content there. That's how you get to the masses. You don't go door to door. You pick up the communication channels that are already going masses, and you mix the chicken in the rice, and you get a taste of both. Thank you. Take care. Best of luck to all of you. Happy International Youth Day to all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Waqar. Thank you. Thank you.